Hello YouTube viewers, welcome to my channel Science to Technology. In today's show, Camera Tuesday, we're going to talk about Samyang autofocus 35 to 150mm f2 to f2.8. So let's dive deep into it. So this focal length is very weird. It's literally between two Holy Trinity lenses, which is between 24 to 70 mm to 70 to 200 mm. It's literally in smack between of those things. So why is that? Well, it's a third-party zoom lens specifically made to circumvent some issues. For example, Sony did open their E-mount and they did work with Tamron and other brands. However, there was a claw. They cannot make a lens that is direct dicto competition with basically Sony. So you will notice that Tamron's 24 to 70 is not exactly 24 to 70, it's like offset. Same goes with 70 to 200, it's like 80 to no, it's 60 to 180. Basically they have to offset, they cannot make dicto copy. So what this company have to do? Well, they figured out, while Holy Trinity is good and all and awesome, do we have to be locked at that? They looked into it and they found out like 35 to 150, it's really sweet spot. If you can make a lens that can go from this wider to this tele, more than enough people will be like, shut up, take money. So they directly focused on that. So for people who need zoom range, not just like, okay, 1x or 2x of zoom, like 3+x of zoom and plus fast aperture. That's why it's critical that this puppy starts at f2 and it drops down to f2.8. This will become a very attractive offer. So they're starting from 2.0, that's a very big deal, and dropping to 2.8. Majority of Holy Trinity lenses starts at 2.8. So this is a very critical thing with a range of 4.2x. Take the bigger number, divide by the small one. So 4.2x, awesome. Now, who is the target audience? Target audience is like a single lens wedding photographer, meaning not every wedding photographer has a two where they have like multiple basically photographers going all in. Majority of the time they may have just one dude, and most of the time they may not have like two cameras. So they may have a scenario where they have to like, okay, okay, I have to change the lens, or sometimes they're just like, okay, I want to put one lens and I'll deal with it. So this lens is focused on that. One individual, one camera body, one lens, done. And it should not be suffering to them. It should not be like, you have to go two back, two front. So this sweet spot directly between the Holy Trinity lens, it's a very unique way of circumventing some limitations and creating a new option. Now this Samyang variant is very new. It just announced 1 or 2 months ago, and this time its price in India is 98,000 rupees, which is genuinely good, and dollar price is $1,300. So it's a low cost, specifically given the fact that it's f2.8 and for full frame. So from that context, the price is genuinely attractive. So what was the specification? Well, specification is right now only available for Sony E-mount, and this is one of the benefits. Like that's how Sony directly went from no company to directly going hand, toe to toe with Canon and Nikon. Even though both of them had 1 century of head start, it's just that they realized very early on. Sony realizes that they do not have good lens. They directly opened their mount and worked with other people. So even the Tamron variant, only now it's coming out for Nikon. Now, as in like 2 years later, it's coming out for Nikon. And I do not think Canon has actually removed their restriction on the R mount series where they're like, okay, some third party will make it. I have not seen any confirmation, and especially no proper lens mount. I could be wrong. I hope I'm wrong for Sony, basically for Canon users, but I have not seen anything. So it's only for Sony as of now, Sony E-mount. It can be put in APS-C. Why? But you can do that. Front filter is a bit bigger, 82mm. Now be mindful, this is a consequence of wide lens. You will have that. And this puppy is heavy. Now this is the painful part. It goes to 1.32 kilogram. This puppy is bad. Basically think of a 2-liter water bottle. You should be able to carry a 2-liter water bottle 24/7, like as long as your wedding lasts. So you have to be some beefy boy to handle this. And because here's the deal, 1.32 kilograms is just the lens. Camera body with battery, let's say you take A7 Mark IV, that's 658 gram. If you have a flash gun on top of it, yeah, you are literally looking at 2 kilograms. So you have to be a bit beefy to handle this puppy. And it has 3 custom switch with focus hold also, because again, these are just electronic function. And while Sony would be like, we do not want to give too much gimmick function, other companies just go all in. You like it, you like it, you do not like it, you do not use it. So it has focus hold button, that's good. And why 2? Well, again, if you are holding like this or like this. So that's there. And it does have custom modes. Now, are the custom modes useful? Actually, yes. Custom modes have some functions, and it has autofocus to manual focus toggle. Be mindful, because these are third-party lenses, generally most of them do not have lens image stabilization. They are relying on IBUS. So that's one of those compromises. Be mindful. Majority of Sony right now full frame are IBUS only, so you do not have to worry too much about it, but it is something to keep in mind. Now, it has inbuilt dolly shot. Dolly shot is something like this, where you zoom into the character, but the room feels like it's getting bigger, or it's like a very unique shot. Is the only way I can show you is just look at it. It's done in movies like Star-Lord in Guardians of the Galaxy 2, when his father comes out, it's like the zoom in and zoom out. That was one of those things. So it's very difficult to do in cinema also, because you have to zoom in while it has manual focus. So not only you have to zoom in, and you have to contract the autofocus. So they're like, hey, we give you an algorithm that triggers it and understands that only you have to do is move the zoom ring. It will compensate with autofocus. So you can actually do pull in and pull out without too much hassle. It's a smart and clever use. And another thing, which again I do understand for more people this would be far more interesting, it has linear manual focus. What does that mean? So if you buy modern photography lenses, something like this, yeah, if you buy basically modern photographic lens, like this is Canon 70-300, most of them do not have like physical lock. Basically, that this focus ring, it's not physically connected. It's just like lol. It's a rotary encoder connected to a linear encoder. So all it does is like translates my rotation into a linear signal. That signal goes into your camera. Camera talks to the lens and moves the autofocus. So problem with this is that in physical thing, you always learn, your muscle memory grows, because it's like, okay, this much is this much, this much is this much. Here there is no this much. You can go lol and lol. And Micro Four Third, like the primary reason of its early failure was that it's like, for some reason they thought this is a mouse, and they designed acceleration into this, meaning if I go from like this to this, it will go x to y. Okay, if I go like this, y to x. Awesome. But here's the deal, if you do it fast, it will change. It will go further or lower, because it is calculating acceleration. That was worst decision that Micro Four Third have done. Even these cameras suffer from this. So linear manual focus simply means this communication will be one-to-one. Now it is most digital camera have learned that if it's a manual focus, let it act like a manual focus. So going from this to this only means x to y. Going this to this ultra fast still means x to y. It will not change the basically it removes the velocity component, makes it far more useful. So this lens is like literally looks like somebody in the team who was making this lens was like a really good video fanatic, and they just went all into it. It does have enough metal inside and does have weather sealing. Do not expect it to be like waterproof, but a light drizzle should not poof you out of action. So that's the specs of this puppy. So what were the performance? Well, let's be real. It's not great. It's not terrible. It will not be like you put it as like, oh, I wasted money. It won't be like that. But it also won't be like Sony G Master Mark II. Sony G Master early ones were not that great, but G Master 2, they learned a lot, and that's what like, damn. Not only those are lighter lenses, those are genuinely scary sharp. Meaning people are like, whoa, like, whoa. So do not expect, and be mindful. Price reflects that. Price is like, whoa, the price is stupidly high. So be very realistic about your expectation. Corner to corner sharpness, I will give it to 8/10. So it's not something where it's like, whoa, the highest color rendition, the sharpest lens. It's like, it's good. It's good. For more than enough scenario, you won't be like, oh, I give this photos to my client, and client is like, what the hell is this? And that won't happen. It's more than good enough, more than sufficient. It does have pin corner distortion. What does that mean? Pin cushion distortion means it happens in telephoto. In the same way, in wide angle lenses, you have barrel distortion. Things starts to look like bulging out. But if you are making a lens that is what you call prime lenses, just one focal length, it's very easy to contract that. But in zoom, it becomes a hassle. So company have to decide, like if it's a very long zoom range, let's say 5x, 10x, they will put the center part to be the best. So if as you zoom in into wide angle, it will look like it's getting barrel distortion. Zoom in into tele end, it will look like it's getting pin cushion, and in the middle it will be perfectly flat. We do not notice it because cameras do a lot of post-processing correction, lens correction to take care of that. While this lens, they designed it quite wisely. They realized that if 35mm is something, and we have f2 at 35mm, so they made sure 35mm is almost dead flat. Like the focus is 35 should be awesome. Why? Because it's f2. So if we have f2 and we have distortion, it's gonna look horrendously ugly. So they're like, okay, f2 flat perspective. Then you, as you zoom in, it starts to get a bit pincushion. Now, is that bad? No, 99.999% of you won't even notice it specifically. You have to go very inside your camera, like there is a buried menu where it allows you to disable the auto correction. So do not worry about it, but this shows like somebody thought about this lens. Like there is some love put into this lens design. It's like, hey, we understand that it would be wiser, mathematically speaking, to put a perfect plane in the front part, not front as in like the between of 120 150 mm to 35, like exactly, let's say 65. They're like, nah, let's put it where people want it. It's like there is some wisdom to this lens. It's parfocal. Again, that means if you zoom in or zoom out, if you lock into a focus, it will not move. It will like it won't be like camera lens is autofocusing. It will be there. Like the design is such a way. Can it be done? Absolutely. Majority of your TV lenses has that. Majority of your cinema lenses has that. This has something that looks like a poor implementation. It's much better compared to all other lenses that are photographic specifically, but do not expect it to compare to a like true parfocal. It's good, it's useful, but it's like not cinema grade. Let's just be real, not cinema, but it will help you if you are like, hey, I'm shooting a lot of video. It will help you. And focus breathing is almost zero, so I'm reasonably sure, so whoever designed this puppy, they were like very seriously into video, because realistically speaking, nowadays we have sorted photography. Heck, we have sorted photography back in this era. Photography is easy in terms of lens optics. It's just the video part that sucks because it exposes everything. So performance is good, and this is the MTF chart. Now again, it's from the company itself, so do not take it with like 1-to-1, but like it does give you a good representation that it's actually good. Like you can see the lines are quite flat and does not go too below. Like it does not like specifically at f2, it can drop below 5 in many cheaper lenses. So it's really good. Not the whoa, but it's like good. So performance is good. So for whom this is, well, this is one of those things where it is like, hey, you like Tamron 35 to 150 mm, it's really good. And I do respect that Tamron did realize something, that lenses now requires firmware updates. So they're like, hey, how would people update the lens? I have no idea how the heck Sony does not have a deal with Tamron where like, hey, we are like legally collaborating, so why not just, use the camera body as a firmware updater? Everybody will have it. They're like, barring that, the early days they developed a puck, which you just put it like on this end basically of your lens. You just go like this, you do like this, it will allow you to have a USB-C on the puck, and that directly communicates with the lens, updating the firmware. They're like, yeah, that's a hassle, and yes, that's an expensive thing. Even in the Samyang, if you want to update the firmware, you have to go through that route. Either buy the puck or go to a shop that has the puck, and they will allow you to update the firmware. If you are a regular customer, for free. If you are a new customer, maybe for a small charge. But Tamron just put a USB-C port in the lens itself. I'm like, that's clever. I do respect that. That's clever. That's clever. I wish every company just accept it. It's like, you are third party. Sony is not going to give you the camera body to upgrade. Might as well put USB-C. So that's there. So in this, you have to be very mindful. If you buy that lens, and if it's like from Amazon or something like that, please make sure that it has the latest firmware. Firmware was an issue. The early firmware, while it did work, and if you have that 99% of the time, you will not notice it. But many people, especially who do a lot of burst, notice that it did not feel whoa snappy. It was like missing, hunting, specifically in the mid-range. In tele, it was good. In basically in wide, it was good. In the between, it was like not really good. They upgraded the firmware, and now it's fixed. Now it's good. So you have to be very thoughtful about the lens purchase. You have to look into the packaging debt. So if you get a recent firmware, no problem. If you are in a big city, you get an older one, not an issue. You can just go to a shop and ask them for that updating. But main selling point is weddings. Basically, one lens to rule them all. You just put this and forget about anything else. Like, yes, the ideally you will have multiple cameras, like bam, bam. So why multiple camera? It reduces your downtime. And if things are happening, you're like, hey, this will look amazing in wide angle. It's much faster than changing lenses. So people, you will notice like photographers sometimes have two things, but again, it's two very heavy things. So ideally, you should only need to move this much. going from this to this, but this takes care of that. One lens to take care of majority of your wedding requirements. You can like put this, forget about anything else. That is awesome, and many people have already used it. They are like, good. 24 to 33 megapixel is the ideal range for this. Can you put this on a arm cameras like Sony R mounts? Yes, and I would not recommend it. Why? Again, that your megapixel file size will go up. That's the absolute thing. But the resolution will not be like, whoa, I went from 24 or 33 to 60. It won't be like, whoa. It will be like, huh, it does not look that much better, because again, lens has a resolution. That's why we have MTF charts. So you have to go into G Master Mark II series to actually let that 60 megapixel shine. But if you do not have 60 megapixel, you do not need to buy that lenses. So 24 to 33 is the sweet spot. Now it's a great quality lens for starter camera, where it's like you buy a camera and you just get into the field, you do some jobs. This is more than awesome. And again, it will not destroy your bank balance. And bokeh is really good. F2 bokeh is like, yes, like customers generally, most of the time, they only need two things: very good sharp focus and very good bokeh. Take it and go. Other than that, they don't generally need more than that. So can you like, it has a bit of warmer tones. Do you really think your client is actually going to tell you, it's like, the warmer tone, and they can actually tell the difference of, hey, you just change it in white balance or tint? So it's one of those things. However, be mindful, this company has a very poor reputation when it comes to bad copies, meaning you can buy, like, for example, this Canon lens, 79, very expensive. But I know if I buy Canon 70-300, 99% of the time it will be a really good lens, as good as Canon makes it. In the end, only rare case scenario I will get something that is like, what the hell. But in the case of Samyang, people have suffered this. Many people have found where the lens element was not perfectly balanced. So consequence was like it was back focusing. Some scenarios again, firmware was also a big issue. So you could have a bad copy issue. So how do you solve it? Well, buy it from where you have replacement option. So best would be you test it in a shop, but if you do not, replacement should be available. If you have replacement, try that before you look for refund. Make sure you have a latest firmware. That will be the ideal case scenario. Most of the time you do not have to worry about it, but it would be a bad reviewer if I do not tell you like these things could happen. That's why even in their reviews, from look into whatever selling site, the reviews are very polarizing. It was like some people are like, whoa, this is genuinely good for the price, it's really amazing, I just take one lens, and other people are like, dude, this is the worst lens, it's very blurry and all that. Bad copy is an issue. So 99% of the time you do not have to worry about it, but it should be in your back of your mind, especially if you're buying new and this is serious. I would urge you to be cautious where you're buying from. Do you have basically replacement, and do you have refunds? Because Tamron is a good option and it does have better reputation of like, getting good things, and it will more or less the same thing and does have USB-C port. So if Tamron improves firmware even further in the future, it would be very easy for you to so for wedding photographers, this is a good lens, and for the cost, that means you can pair this puppy with A7C Mark II, and you can have some really good low cost, high performance camera and lens setup, like a really good system. So this was my presentation on Samyang 35 to 150mm f2 to f2.8 lens. Hopefully you have liked it, learned from it. In that case, please hit the like button, share it amongst your friends. That will help me a lot. If you didn't like it, didn't enjoy it, I urge you to press dislike, press it twice to show me disappointment. Please leave a comment because I do try to reply to all of them. Subscribe, press the bell icon if you're free, and as always, thanks for watching.